Let's take a look at the idea of SMART goals and how we ensure the alignment of our goals to our strategy. Let's go back to our vision, to be the leading financial services organization in, for, and across Africa, delivering exceptional client experiences and superior value. So there's a couple of things I'd like to point out here. First of all, let's take a look at this idea of being the leading. When we talk about being the leading is not a position we arrive at. It's a position that once we get there, we need to be able to hold, which means we are continually paying attention to what's going on in our environment. It doesn't matter what our competitors are doing. It doesn't matter what's going on from a global point of view. It doesn't matter what's going on from a local point of view, what our customers are demanding, even what's going on within the organization. If we are going to be the leading financial services organization, it means we pay attention, we adjust course when we need to adjust course, we step it up when we need to step it up. We are continually doing what we need to do to stay relevant and to hold that position of being leading. Another side of that is to consider this. Is there anybody else in Africa who can do what you do better than you? So what I'm talking about here is when we think about the vision, being the leading, it's not just a vision that belongs to the organization. It's a vision that needs to belong to every individual within this organization. If you're going to be part of a winning team, you need to be bringing something to the table that allows that team to be able to hold and to be able to deliver to that space. Another element is take a look at exceptional client experiences. We're not talking about creating exceptional customer service. The difference here is in the feeling. How do people feel about doing business with us? Take that right down to the individual level as well. How do people feel about working with you on a daily basis? How do people feel about having you report into them? How do people feel about having to report into you? How do people feel about having to rely on you to deliver a particular piece of work? Again, it's so important when we're working with our vision is to realize that the vision doesn't belong to the organization. The vision belongs to individuals within that organization. Another aspect to consider here is this idea of superior value. So what we're saying here is, do we contribute to the success of our clients? Do we contribute to the success of our stakeholders within the organization? Are we doing more than just our jobs? Are we contributing to the overall success of the organization? Do we understand what that value looks like? There is a responsibility from an organizational point of view, but there's also a responsibility from an individual's point of view. So just having that vision in mind now starts to give us an idea of what we need to be doing and how we need to be considering the goals that we set for people. So when we're setting goals, either for a business unit, for a team, or for an individual, we constantly have to be thinking about, is what we're doing helping our team be the leading? Is what we're doing as a business unit helping the organization be the leading? Is what I'm doing as an individual something that, and let's tie it right back into the rating scale that we're talking about, as an individual, am I setting the example about how things need to be done in the space that I'm operating in? So when we're talking about setting goals, these goals need to be relevant. Every individual needs to know how they're contributing towards the strategic imperative of the team and the business unit that they are part and parcel of. They need to know that what they're doing on a daily basis, practically, tactically, how what they're doing is allowing the strategy to be realized. What do those SMART goals look like? So when we think about setting a goal, we're still going to work with the idea of the SMART acronym. So let's begin with the S here. When we talk about setting an objective, we need to be specific. Individuals need to know what would the outcome be, what is the deliverable that is expected, that is attached to that particular goal. Specifically, what would we be looking for, what would the outcome be that is required if that goal is actually achieved. You don't want anybody sitting trying to guess or trying to think, have I delivered what it is that I need to deliver? When we talk about measurable, the harder it is to measure a goal, the more important it is to agree on what those measurements look like. So when we are in an environment where we're chasing a particular target and there's figures attached to it, it's easy to say whether we have or we haven't delivered that goal. But when we are focusing on a goal that is less tangible in its outcome, then we have to agree up front, what are the means, what are the mechanisms we're going to use to agree that that goal was delivered. So if we are looking, for instance, at delivering a particular project into an area, what form of stakeholder feedback would we be looking for that would give us an indication that the project was delivered to the standard and in the way that the stakeholder expected of us? We need to be agreeing up front what the measurement will be. Take a look at attainable. When we think about attainable, what we're saying here is when you set a goal, when you set an objective for somebody, it needs to be within their means to achieve it. That being said, we work in a matrix. Everybody in our space is dependent on somebody to deliver what they need to deliver. So when we're thinking about attainable, that now starts to talk about what do I have to do in order to achieve my goal. So if I am reliant on 2, 3, 4 people or 4 areas in order for me to be able to move forward in terms of my objective, I'm now going to start thinking strategically. I'm going to start planning some stakeholder management to ensure that I have what I need when I need it, and I'm going to be planning that ahead of time. I'm going to be managing those relationships ahead of time so that I am able to see my responsibilities through. So when we talk about attainable, absolutely, the goal needs to be relevant to me, the goal needs to be within my means. But the other side of it is I have a responsibility to do whatever needs to be done to ensure that the individuals or the teams or the areas that I'm relying on are engaged and I am engaging with them so I have what I need when I need it. Let's take a look at the R. When we talk about the R, we're talking about a goal that is relevant. Relevant to the strategic imperative of the team you belong to, relevant to the contribution that needs to be made. Do not set a goal where an individual is just busy, but you cannot, at the end of that activity, be able to express or be able to articulate how that goal actually contributed towards the overall or the overarching objective of a team. Goals always need to be relevant. Goals always need to be strategically aligned. And even if you want to think about it this way, you want to be thinking about a goal in the sense of, is what I'm doing helping us be the leading? Is what I'm doing helping create an exceptional experience? Is what I'm doing adding superior value? Even if you just take those 3 elements, they already start to shape the goals and the objectives that we are setting for individuals. And when we're talking about time-based, all goals will need to be delivered within a particular time frame. But you're not only wanting to focus on the time that it needs to be delivered. If we're going to be smart about this, if we're going to be able to give ourselves time to course correct if something has caught us off guard, if we're going to have time to either do more of or less of something, then we're going to have to build in checks and measures throughout that deliverable. We need to be able to, if we're working on a project and it's a 3-month project, we might want to build in some timelines where at the end of month 1, we're checking in, Are we on track? Is there anything that we need to do more of, less of? Is there something that we need to consider now that wasn't in our line of sight when we originally started on that project? So the time base is not just an endpoint. The time base are key points in the process that give us an opportunity to think about our deliverable and add to, shape, or refocus that deliverable in order to achieve the result that we are looking for. Another element that we need to consider when we're thinking about setting our goals with Perform to Grow is you're not going to be given a mandate as to when to set those goals. You're not going to be given a mandate as to how many goals you should be setting and when you should be checking in with regards to these goals. Perform to Grow is fit for purpose. You need to be setting goals that are relevant to you, relevant to your team, relevant to the context that you are operating in. So if you're in an area where you set a goal over 3 years, that's what you're going to do. And then you're going to have your checks and your measures within those 3 years. If you are in an area that is highly volatile, that is forever changing, you may be setting a goal for a month. And then you're going to be re-looking at that goal and you're going to be considering what needs to be done to move you forward. So the goals that you're setting are relevant to the individual, relevant to the function that they perform. The goals that you are setting are relevant to the team, they're relevant to the context. In other words, the goal is not a vague repeat of somebody's job description. The goal is a clear, focused deliverable that helps the individual contribute towards the overarching objective of a team or of the business unit that they are supportive of. And why do we actually have to have goals? If we do this correctly, if we have goals that are rigorous, if we have goals that are relevant, then what they start to do is direct individuals and teams' actions and efforts in a strategically relative way. In other words, we stop wasting our time doing things and focusing on activities that are irrelevant. That we know that if we have rigorous goals that are strategically aligned, when we're working on something, the thing that we're working on matters. If you've got a great goal that is in place, that goal will energize an individual. That goal will drive a team. It'll challenge a team to actually put in greater effort. It will focus teams and it'll allow us to be persistent when things are coming at us, when something sneaks up on us from left field. If we've got a clear, relevant goal, we're able to pick ourselves up, readjust, and keep ourselves going. The other great element about a great goal, another aspect to a great goal, is it motivates us to consider where we are, where it is we need to be, what knowledge we already have available to us, what knowledge we might be short of, if there's a necessary skill we might require in order to close a gap, if there is experience that we are needing in order to deliver to a particular objective. What goals do, good goals do, solid goals do, is actually not only deliver an end result, but it grows and it builds the capacity and the value of the individual who's participating in that goal. So when we're talking about setting objectives for individuals, when we're talking about setting objectives for teams, we need to make sure that those objectives clearly articulate the contribution that that individual is participating in, clearly articulates the contribution that team needs to be making to the overarching strategic imperative of the business unit. They need to be relevant, they need to be robust. And if something changes in our environment and we need to rethink our tactic, we need to rethink our strategy, then we go back to those goals and we work with them. They are an action plan to an outcome that we are looking for. And if the plan is no longer relevant, we change the plan in order to reach our ultimate destination.